Participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. We'll now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Transportation Policy Committee. Please unmute and indicate if you are present. Mayor Anderson?
Here.
Thank you. Jay Bieber?
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Borowski? Member Butler? Doug DeCluson? Councilmember Edwards?
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Freeman? Vice Chair Gallego?
Here.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Garland?
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Haney? Mayor Hermosillo?
Here.
Thank you. Sharon Heddick?
Present.
Thank you. Spencer Camps?
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Lesko?
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Manfredi? Kevin McCarthy?
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Osborne?
Here.
Thank you. Tyler Pace? Mayor Pizzillo? Councilmember Poston?
Here.
Thank you. Martin Ramirez?
Here.
Thank you. Mark Reardon? Jack Sellers?
Here.
Thank you. Alma Shim? Chair Wires? Mayor Wheatley?
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember White?
Present.
Thank you. Larry Wilson?
Here.
Thank you. And Mayor Wilson?
Here.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I missed?
I'm not sure if I had mute on, but it's Vincent Manfredi.
Thank you. Madam Chair, we have quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. And now it is time for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag,
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We today get to welcome 3 new members, Sharon Heddick, Martin Ramirez, and Larry Wilson. Welcome, members. We're so pleased to have you. They have been appointed by the Arizona Legislature to the Transportation Policy Committee. Can we give them a round of applause to welcome them? Our next item is call to the audience. I have not received any request to speak on the call to the audience. MAG also provides the opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. And staff, have we received any online written comments for the call to the audience?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. We have not received any online written comments.
Great. Informational items. Items 4A and 4B are for information only. Mr. Bieber has provided feedback on item 4B, which staff will be reviewing for possible changes to be incorporated in future reports. Does any member of the committee have any questions or request a presentation on either of these items? All right, hearing none, the next is agenda item number 5, approval of the consent agenda. Items 5A through 5G are on the consent agenda. Does any member of the committee have questions or request a presentation on any of these items? Mr. Bieber. All right, and any others? Okay, could we get a motion on the consent agenda with the exception of 5G?
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Garland and a second from Mayor Osborne. We will have those participating in the meeting online take part in the voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their cameras, staff will conduct a roll call vote. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote. And I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Please leave your cameras on. Staff, can you take a roll call of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their cameras?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. All had their cameras on and the motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you. We will now proceed to item 5G, which is the draft policy principles. And would start with a brief presentation, or do you want Mr. Jumay provide comments?
Whatever's preferred. I'm open to
Okay.
whatever to.
Madam Chair, maybe if Ms. Clacklack, who's our Government Relations Project Manager, can provide a
Good morning, Madam Vice Chair and members of TPC. Each year, we update the annual MAG policy principles to clearly articulate MAG's policy positions that support our roles and responsibilities and to guide our responses to legislative and policy proposals. The 6 topics highlighted in the policy principles reflect MAG's priority areas of work: transportation planning, air quality planning, housing and homelessness, 911 and public safety, local control, and partnerships with our Intermountain West peers. As in most years, the principles remain largely consistent with minor updates made as necessary. These principles are intended to serve as a high-level policy framework to help guide legislative proposals that may impact MAG's work. In addition, through legislative updates I provide at each policy meeting during the legislative session, I bring forward any issues of concern to policymakers for guidance on MAG's response. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bieber.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. This is more a comment, but I guess a question in general is under transportation. I mean, it's basically 2 sentences. Seems a little bit sparse with regards to, MAG in the entire county, and it really just basically says supports responsible planning and investment in multimodal transportation. Like what? It would seem that there should be a broader mandate or a broader policy with regards to MAG and the county in terms of what we're what our charge here is, or what MAG's charge is here.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and thank you, Mr. Bieber, for the statement. And I think I can elaborate a little bit to help answer that comment and the question. So we use the term multimodal in a very broad, high-level sense to encompass transportation projects across all modes. So that includes roadways, freeways, bicycle and pedestrian facilities, as well as transit. So this reflects how we can track and evaluate legislative issues that may affect the transportation planning work we conduct, but in a broad sense to cover all ranges of the multimodal transportation.
Madam Vice Chair?
Please.
Yes, but multimodal has a very specific term in planning. And if the only statement that's in here is, we support multimodal, it can be interpreted, I'm not saying that is your intention to interpret that way, but it can be interpreted that the policy of MAG is that all projects should have multimodal components, not, hey, we're going to look at, all different things depending on what's right for a particular area. So I just think in terms of the way that this is phrased, or the way or how sparsely it's phrased, I think that it's not something that I can support in terms of voting for without sort of a broader statement as to what the broader policies are. And I'll just kind of give you, with the Vice Chair's permission, I just want to give you just a little bit of the kind of thing I'm talking about, just as an example. So something that says support responsible, performance-driven planning and investment in a regional transportation system that reduces congestion, improves roadway performance, increases mobility, and expands the number of jobs and destinations reachable by residents and visitors, focuses investments on projects that deliver the greatest system-wide benefit by efficiently moving people and goods, improving travel time reliability, and enabling safe, convenient travel throughout the region, implement regional strategic transportation infrastructure investment plan, and modernize traditional transportation revenue sources at the federal and state levels to support continued growth and economic vitality. That's the kind of thing that I would be looking for in terms of what a broader statement as to what the policies are. Simply just saying we support multimodal, it just doesn't say much, and it can be misinterpreted. And I think that's my concern about this particular item and the way that these are drafted.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and thank you, Mr. Bieber, for those comments.
To our staff, anyone online have any comments? All right.
There are no comments.
I'm sorry. Did anyone on my right? No. Okay. Then are we ready for a motion on 5G?
Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item 5G.
Second, Mayor Hermosillo.
Thank you. Mayor Orsborn and Mayor Hermosillo. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, wonderful. Did Steph get the nays?
Could that be repeated possibly?
Okay. All those opposed, please say nay.
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 So Heddick, Camps, and Bieber. Is that accurate? All right. Thank you all. Staff will do a roll call of those online.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. All had their cameras on and the motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you for having your cameras on. We have a real treat today. Really appreciative to the Arizona Department of Transportation for doing a statewide listening tour. And this will be a chance for us to have a update and information and discussion. It'll be presented by Denise Lacey, Planning Manager, and Jennifer Toth, Director of the State Department of Transportation.
Good day. Thank you, Vice Chair, members of the Policy Committee. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today and present to you the Arizona Department of Transportation statewide listening tour. This morning we are joined by ADOT Director Jennifer Toth, who will provide an introduction of efforts led by Arizona Department of Transportation in the development of a statewide transportation vision. It is not ADOT's intention to modify existing transportation plans, but in working with MPOs and COGs across the state, identify transportation needs in areas where transportation plans have not yet been developed. The efforts that are being taken by Arizona Department of Transportation will not change the current MAG funding plans. Our regional transportation plan, which sets forth our regional transportation vision, serves as our long-term blueprint for guiding investments and extends to 2050. Or our transportation improvement program, which is a detailed listing of near-term projects, serving as the first 5 years of the regional transportation plan, extending to the year 2050. Or our regional, and I always mess this up, Regional Strategic Transportation Infrastructure Investment Plan, or our RSTIP, which manages the regional funding policy and extends through the life of Prop 479 to the year 2045. So what is MAG's role in the listening tour? MAG is a regional stakeholder, and we will ensure that our plans stand strong and assist in developing the statewide vision. We will participate in listening sessions, especially those that are adjacent to or within the central regional area. And we will again ensure that our Prop 479 investments are protected. In concert with Pinal Association of Governments and the Sun Corridor Metropolitan Planning Organization, we will work with ADOT at looking at the entire central metropolitan region and how connectivity into and out of our region can be improved. I'd like to introduce Jennifer Toth, Arizona Department of Transportation Director.
Thank you, Denise. Welcome. My name's Jennifer Toth. I'm happy to be here today to talk to you about Next Move Arizona, ADOT's statewide listening tour. The listening tour really isn't something that we've done before. We haven't always been very good at listening. I'll be the first one to admit that. And so we are reaching deep into the local communities across the state to really try to strengthen those relationships and work together. So how are we doing that? And what are we trying to do? We're really trying to develop a shared vision for the future of transportation within our state. The name really frames that effort as a step in a larger direction, a larger strategy, not just a reaction to the current needs, but a response as to what is ahead for the state. It's emphasizing momentum and progress, which helps energize that public perception and suggests Arizona is not just standing still. We're ready to act in that next phase of our transportation evolution. So I will note this isn't a typical plan or document like you are probably used to seeing. It really is just a listening tour and listening about how common themes and developing that statewide vision, not just a plan on how to achieve that vision. So it is really important to note, and Denise did a great job, that we understand the unique and important position that MAG region plays in the entire state. We're working closely with staff to ensure that everyone understands that our listening tour is in no way intended to affect the regional transportation plans that are out there. Our intent is that our efforts throughout the state will benefit the MAG region and respect the work that has been done and is being done here today. So I'm going to start with a premise that I think we can all agree on, that not all transportation needs are being met in our state. So we all recognize that funding is limited and probably always will be. So what tends to happen right now is we make do with what's available, and we end up building things kind of in a piecemeal situation. So the problem is, without that shared vision, those individual pieces sometimes don't fit together into a comprehensive system-wide plan. And so that we have a kind of a unique position front. Then even if we're building in stages, that at least we know that each piece contributes to the whole system. And right now we're building one piece at a time, but we don't really actually know what that final result is. So let's dig in a little deeper to the listening tour. First, it's important for me to emphasize this is a listening tour. I'll keep stressing that. It's not a telling tour, which is usually what we come out. Here's a plan, now react to it. We really are just sitting down and having conversations with communities, community leaders. We're starting with listening because we want a transportation system that works for everyone in Arizona. We know, again, that not all needs are being met, so we're asking what is needed, what's the vision, where are we falling short, and where should we aim? Not everyone sees that same vision, but by coming together, we can create a shared direction, and it gets us to where we want to go. And it has really, I think, fundamentally changed that relationship that ADOT has with local communities. We're seeing that all along. So how are we accomplishing this tour? Well, we rolled out this concept at the Transportation Policy Summit in the fall in Sierra Vista in October. And there we started to meet with local contacts, and we've been following up to coordinate and schedule listening sessions. So a critical cornerstone of this effort is we are meeting people where they are, really encouraging the regions to shape their own events and inviting those voices to the table that spark kind of a different conversation. We're really good at playing inside transportation baseball. And so we're really trying to expand the community aspect of it and the community leaders and engage different areas. So for the central metropolitan areas, we are working with MAG, PAG, and the Sun Corridor MPOs to schedule sessions to discuss transportation challenges and the unmet needs that span all three organizations. What's really important, Denise noted it earlier, was it's the transportation in and out of the MAG region and that Sun Corridor area as well. That's critical to the rest of the entire state. So ADOT's, right now we're working with stakeholders, usually the COGS and MPOs, county supervisors associations, community leaders, chamber of commerces, and we'll be expanding that to the public in this spring timeframe. So we've long worked to connect communities across Arizona to that statewide transportation system, addressing what matters most to people, that growth and that quality of life. And this time the conversation is expanding to explore how the system can truly really benefit the communities and support their local and regional priorities. So these voices are really needed to help guide that vision, the planning, the design, and implementation of Arizona's transportation system. So it's, as you can see here, these are kind of some of the topics that are coming forward from the different communities. And as I mentioned, we really are letting the hosting community shape what that looks like. Just last week, they took a tour down in Safford. So it can be tours, storytelling, it can be focus groups, it can be standing meetings where we come and present. It's really, truly us being there to listen to what the community has to say. So, you know what? Whoops. There we go. As for what we've kind of heard so far, pavement condition obviously is a prominent theme for us. Safety is always a prominent theme, especially in the rural areas, emphasizing the passing lane opportunities as well as shoulders. We've heard tourism and outdoor recreation are major economic drivers, and education and enforcement are needed for driver behavior. And as I noted, this isn't a plan. We've also heard about government bureaucracy as a barrier to leading to process. So we're taking those steps to lead to process improvement in how we are doing business as ADOT as well. So we're identifying common themes. And then, as I mentioned, after the public outreach, we will reconnect with the listening tour participants to kind of confirm what we've heard and be able to kind of allow that vision to get that feedback. So right now, I keep losing we want to provide you with awareness of the efforts that we're undertaking, ensure that open communication. We're continuing to work with MAG staff throughout the listening tour, and we anticipate providing an update in the fall when we have a better idea of where the vision is heading at that point, and hope by collaborating with you that we'll earn your support for the vision that is developed. So if you get back to the office and think of something that wasn't answered today, we have a QR code, an email, a phone number. Please feel free to contact us, and greatly appreciate your time for being able to present to you today. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Director Toth, for taking the time to meet with us. And this group appreciates the collaboration on our successful Prop 479 while delivering very complicated projects like the Broadway Road curve improvements. So some good successes for us, and our voters are supportive of continued investment in transportation in all parts of this region, which was good news. And on behalf of Phoenix, we wanted to thank you for the help with some of our big freeway projects, particularly the 303, where we need a lot of public involvement, and Grand 35, as well as some of the recent I-17. So thank you for getting all the engineers, consultants, and meeting with our community. Members of the committee. Jack Sellers, who has some connections here.
I really like that you're doing this, because after serving 6 years on the State Transportation Board, one of the things you realize is you see almost the same people at all the meetings. And this expands the area of people that you're listening to in all these outside areas. And I think it has to be a very positive thing. Certainly one of the things that I learned being on the State Transportation Board is that the average person doesn't know where a county line is or a municipal line is. All they know is they want a system that works. And I think this is a step in the right direction for that.
Thank you.
Sharon.
Living in the West Valley, I represent the unincorporated areas of the West Valley, a lot of them, including seniors, veterans, and those with disabilities. You have the two largest senior communities in the state of Arizona in the West Valley. So to that end, how are you contacting the unincorporated areas? What's your reach out to them?
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and Ms. Hedek. We are working through usually either the COG or MPO, in this case with MAG, but also with county supervisors, local elected officials, in terms of being able to who would invite us into the community. So if you know of someone, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to schedule some time.
Thank you. I will.
Thank you, Board Member Hedrick. We'll go to Vice Mayor Garland, and then I saw Councilman Manfredi, and then Jay Bieber.
I just have a comment. I like this idea. I love the listening tour. I think we all need to be better at listening. But what I really loved is what you said is that when you are done, you're going to be reaching back to the participants that you talk to. Because I think so many times we do these surveys, we go out and talk to people and they're like, well, whatever happened with that information? And you're going to go back and confirm what you had heard. I think that's excellent. Way to go. I love it.
Thank you.
Councilmember Manfredi.
Thank you for a moment to speak. With our city, the city of Maricopa, we have attended, I think, every MAG transportation board meeting for the last 10 years because we've been trying so hard to get the 347 taken care of. Director Toth and staff at ADOT have been so graceful and worked so hard to find out ways for us to get this stuff done. And so I just wanted to say they mean it when they want to listen. They listen, they understand, they try very hard to understand what's happening. And then they work hard to bring solutions. And that's the greatest thing. So a listening tour is so welcome because there's so many people out there that have experiences they want to share and they want to learn about what's going on. So it's a great way for us as a state to get understanding of transportation, because many people just don't understand it, and they don't understand how poorly funded transportation is statewide. So it's great to have a listening tour, and it's great for everyone to get out there, and you guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Board Member Bieber, and then Councilwoman White, and then Supervisor Lesko.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Welcome. I just have a couple of quick questions just about how the tour is put together and who you reach out to and how you develop. I don't know. Are you asking people questions? Or are you presenting something and getting feedback? Or are you saying, hey, what do you guys want? You know, like that kind of stuff. So the first question really is sort of like, are there specific questions, or are there specific things you're presenting, or specific ideas, and then getting feedback on those, or are they? Or is this more of a general, like, just tell us what you think kind of thing?
Madam Vice Chair, Mr. Bieber, yes, it's really just listening. What is, a few prompting questions, such as what's important to this community, so that we get a better understanding of what's important and what's driving transportation in that area. But then the conversation just evolves. You mentioned education. That is something that people ask questions. Well, how are you funded? And so it gives us that opportunity for that education component as well. But it really is just a conversation.
Okay. May I follow up with another? Thanks. Thank you. And just sort of it's a kind of a very pointed question, so I wrote it out. So how is ADOT ensuring that everyday motorists, freight operators, and long distance commuters are adequately represented in the public engagement phase of this?
Madam Vice Chair, Mr. Bieber, definitely we have a very strong public outreach effort. A lot of times we'll reach out very specific stakeholders, such as the trucking community, et cetera. So it's really targeting specific groups as well as the public in general.
Right. So just as a more pointed question, then, when you say the general public, like how, let's say I was not involved in this or whatever, and I'm just regular person going to work every day or whatever, where would I see information about that there's a listening event in my area or something like that?
Madam Vice Chair, Mr. Bieber, that's a great question. In fact, we're meeting in just a few weeks to really start that discussion about what that public outreach looks like and how we're going to be getting that information out. So I'd be more than happy to provide that back to MAG staff to be able to provide that information to you.
And just as a suggestion, one of the things that I think our community where I live is somewhat tied into is like Nextdoor and those types of online platforms. There's different Facebook groups, one for our area as well, and Cave Creek and whatnot. Each group had, and if there's a possibility to reach out that way, I think that's a way that a lot of people might learn about this as opposed to, I don't know, some other form that they may not see every day.
Thank you for that. Yes, we do use those tools as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll head now to Avondale and Councilmember White.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair, Chair Gallego, and thank you so much, Director Toth, for coming in to share the innovative way of just coming out and really speaking to people. I think I'm on the opposite end of what we heard from Vice Mayor Manfredi. City of Maricopa definitely had some needs, and we can see countywide their needs are being addressed. So here in the West Valley, we look forward to partnering with you and giving you feedback as we look at multimodal expansion, more specifically State Route 30. So I'm interested as well on how we're going to be engaging the public. We do have a lot of rural spaces and places back there. I don't want to get ahead of myself, so I do want to be brief and allow for Supervisor Lesko's commentary, because I know she does a great job of representing us here in the West Valley. But we're really grateful that you've taken this approach, and we look forward to the growth, especially State Route 30 and the partnerships that you've continued to make sure the I-10 is drivable and expanding and growing, and the signage is always fun. We really appreciate what you're doing and look forward to more. And thank you for taking our frank feedback up to this point to ensure we have these type of outcomes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Supervisor Lesko, followed by Mayor Osborne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to request that ADOT reach out to my office, Debbie Lesko, County Supervisor. I'd like to help you arrange some listening tours in, let's say, the Sun City areas, Sun City, Sun City West, Sun City Grand. I think you would have a huge turnout talking about Highway 60, Grand Avenue, and the 303, especially in light of BNSF Railway wanting to do their proposed intermodal facility in Whitman, Arizona. There's a huge concern about transportation. I'd also like to work with Mayor Osborne and you, I think, west of Buckeye and in the Buckeye area where there's a huge high growth area. And as you know, I-10 is totally overcrowded. I would like a listening tour there as well, and I will help coordinate meeting locations with you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Lesko, thank you. We will definitely be reaching out to you.
Wonderful. And what a welcome transition to Mayor Osborne.
Perfectly played. Thank you, Supervisor. Your listening tour might be like a stadium tour, because if you take this on the road to some of these folks, you're going to need a big facility. Just want to start out by saying, from a construction perspective, and as a construction professional, everything that I've done in my career is related to either construction or development. And watching ADOT and ADOT's contractors and ADOT's engineers in action out on the roadways is like watching a symphony. And I know it doesn't feel like that because you're going through traffic cones and you're getting detoured all over the place. But the construction and the execution of the projects, once they're through the process, is so fun to watch. And it's exciting to see finished projects like the Broadway Curve and some of the stuff that's headed our way. We had the expansion of I-10 a few years ago, and my wife thinks I'm nuts, but I would go down and watch what was happening, and that final pave and the smell of that paving. You know you are close to the end of the project when you can smell the asphalt, which is, I think, a sweet smell. She does not think it's as sweet. So transportation infrastructure, it's essential to economic development, safety, and quality of life. And we need strong partnerships with ADOT to deliver for our communities, Buckeye and the West Valley, and the region is growing incredibly rapidly, and we have to keep pace. MAG's Transportation Policy Committee asked MAG to study ways to streamline and expedite major projects. And I think what kicked this off was the State Route 30 conversation between 303 and the 202, and not the other two segments, but just that segment. ADOT had presented and said, we're cruising through the project, and before you know it, it's all going to be done in 2035. And every time I tell that story, I either get a gasp of, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," or just a burst of laughter. And what do you mean, 10 years to build that project? So we had requested that MAG take on a process of let's maybe figure out ways that we as MAG can help in expediting some of these projects and moving this forward. And it's not just on State Route 30; it's the 303 and 60 interchange. It's the 24 in Queen Creek, and it's everything in between. And we have a tremendous opportunity with, I think it's $28 billion. Fact checkers, correct me if I'm wrong on that, in a transportation plan over the next 20 years to begin right now and figure out how to execute on projects and build efficiencies into all of this. And from our perspective, thank you for coming on the listening tour. I'm going to talk. It's a capacity first strategy, and we're experiencing this. And there's a short stretch of I-10 that's going to be widened between, I think it's Citrus Road and Jackrabbit Trail. There was a kind of a strike force that we have this ability to move and make projects happen that are sort of band-aids to help with some of the issues in areas. And in this area, we could restripe this area and get capacity out of it for about $3 million. I'm not suggesting we go back to talking about that specific, but there's a $27 or $30 million project in that stretch that is the ultimate solution to that stretch of freeway. And I think from our perspective, and that's, sound walls and lighting and everything else that comes along with a completely finished freeway section. And I think from our perspective, I think most of the commuters that either are stuck in that or are stuck on Grand Avenue or stuck wherever they're stuck, they're not necessarily concerned about sound walls and landscaping, and they're really concerned about another lane that alleviates some of that traffic congestion. So that's where we're coming from on the capacity first strategy. We've understood that right-of-way acquisition is often a critical barrier to project initiation. And we at TPC, and I'm sure you think this also, that right-of-way acquisition team members in your department are critically important and a strategy to go about that process much quicker than we are. And I think it's a resource issue. And I think it's on all of us to figure out how we help, whether that's talking with the state leadership about how do we get more funds toward ADOT to hire on some of those professionals or contract that out, but that has to happen quicker than it has. Utilities, we're often told that utilities are a long lead item for some of the project and specifically in that State Route 30 corridor. This entire committee, and I think the entire MAG Regional Council, and I think every commuter would say we have a lever that we can pull with the utilities and would love to be an assist in that for ADOT. So if there's any way that we can help hustle along the utility companies to move utilities out of the right of way, we are all ears and we'll listen right back from you on that one. Innovation, it's encouraging the department to seek other delivery methods or other ways of making some of this happen. And I expect that the report that we're going to see is maybe going to talk a little bit about that. I think toll roads have always, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that out loud in this room, but it's an interesting concept, and maybe that expands the ability for us to have conversations about other things that maybe aren't toll roads, but are creeping up on some alternate funding mechanism or alternate delivery method. For us in the city of Buckeye, the regional offices, we're split right in between two regional offices, and it complicates things a little bit. We think from our perspective in the city of Buckeye, it would be great to absorb what is controlled, what it is in Buckeye controlled by Yuma. grow that into the Central Phoenix office. And then partnerships. We are all here to try and figure out faster ways to deliver these projects so that our commuters, our citizens can have a higher quality of life and not be stuck in traffic. There was talk about I-10 and how congested that is. It is now congested both ways at weird hours of the day. And it is really, really important that we figure out how to solve for that in our area, solve for the 24, solve for all of these congested areas in a much more expedited pace, so that we don't have everybody saying that's it, no more growth. That it's likely not going to happen, because I don't think our legislature would go along with limiting growth, and we don't want that. But at some point, there's going to be a giant revolt by the community that's going to say, we just can't handle anymore because we can't keep up with the infrastructure. And I think that's an opportunity for us, for all of us that are sitting around the table, all the state agencies, to figure out how we move this forward and meet the challenge. Just make sure I didn't miss anything else on my notes. So I think bottom line is all of us want to be a solution-oriented partner. And our shared objective is to deliver projects faster, maximize capacity improvements, and keep the region moving safely. And we sure appreciate your time and coming out and listening, and look forward to further conversations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board member, it was Ramirez and then Mayor Wheatley, I think.
Thank you, Director Toth, for your leadership. Something I wanted the committee to know, worked 30 years as a contractor with ADOT and other state agencies outside of Arizona, along with different municipalities and counties. And I can tell you that the listening tour is no surprise to us as industry. We've seen it firsthand under Director Toth's leadership. Hadn't seen it in previous directors. Meets regularly, monthly, with engineers, consultants, different agencies, and not telling us what's happening, but asking us what can we do better and how can we improve. And we've had Kaizen meetings with Arizona Rock Products, with Associated General Contractors over the last couple of years, and we've seen positive movement in those meetings, and wanted to make sure everybody knew. Talked about different delivery methods. ADOT's done a good job of that. You look at 2 projects coming up here, the 347 as a CMAR, using a different alternative delivery method to get that job started here in the next few months. The I-10 out in Buckeye, redoing Jackrabbit interchange, adding the HOV lane out to SR 85, getting ready to start construction up on I-17 near TSMC. You've got the 101 I-10 coming up here that'll start adding HOV ramps there. So thank you, Director. And I want to make sure everyone knows that we've seen different leadership in a positive way as industry members, streamlining the way we do business, trying to stretch out the dollars that we have because those budgets are less, and then listening on how we can do things, whether it's innovative new products, recycling existing aggregates. How can we streamline? How can we do business better so that we can stretch $1 into $2? So something I wanted the committee to know, and thank you, Director Toth, for your leadership.
Thank you.
Great comment. Thank you. Mayor Wheatley.
Thank you. I will be short. I want to echo the appreciation and thanks. I love this approach. If you want to hear from the people, you have to go to the people. And so you will get a different audience, which is what we need. And it makes such a tremendous impact to be able to visit that community, see those constraints firsthand versus an email or me telling you about it, but to be able to see that in that community. And each community is so unique, but coming from Queen Creek, one of the fastest growing communities across the state, obviously have a lot of needs. And then I'm sure you're familiar with the newly incorporated town of Santan Valley. Although it's new, it's not small. It's already over 100,000 people. And so that would also be a great listening stop as well. An agenda is much appreciated, but truly having time built in to just listen and what are those pinch points. But just love this approach. I'll throw the term toll roll out there also, so you don't take all the friendly fire there. But really, just let's look at all the options here, right? Like, let's explore everything. And so there's a lot of possibilities out there, but so appreciative of this and your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online who is queued? All right. Some areas of interest for me, I-11, I think would be a great connectivity. Talking to my council colleagues as we redo freeways like I-17, we want to make sure people, pedestrians and others are safe, and we don't want hiding places under the underpasses. So trying to design them to discourage certain uses. And then Rio Reimagined is a request to many of us, and to me, regional rail between Phoenix and Tucson. Take some of those cars going to the airport off I-10 and let someone else do the driving. All right. Well, do Audra or John, do you have any final comments? Well, thank you. It seems like incredible enthusiasm for this listening tours, and a lot of people excited to welcome you to their communities. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
All right. Next, we go to item 7, State Route 85 Pima Street Study Acceptance. It's on the agenda for action and will be presented by Velvet Matthew, Freeway Engineering Manager.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Gallego and members of the Transportation Policy Committee. I'm here to present the State Route 85 Pima Street Study for Acceptance. Some of you may remember that I recently presented an update to the study back in October to Management Committee and the Regional Council. Today, I'll be talking about the study findings and the recommendations. So the State Route 85 Pima Street study is located in the southwest portion of the MAG region, and more specifically within the town of Gila Bend. It is the main street within the town, and it connects Interstate 8 and State Route 85. The study limits were from Gila Boulevard to the west to Dodson Street to the east. State Route 85 Pima Street runs parallel to the Union Pacific Railroad, and for the majority of the traffic on this portion of roadway, their ultimate destination is not the town of Gila Bend. Many of you may be familiar with this roadway if you've ever driven from Phoenix to San Diego, or vice versa, San Diego to Phoenix, or if you've driven from Phoenix to Rocky Point. You've had to take that loop ramp in order to continue heading south on State Route 85. If you've driven back from Rocky Point, you've taken that same loop ramp, but this time you had to stop at that stop sign and wait for a gap in traffic to be able to make a safe left turn in order to continue heading east. On the north side of the roadway, there are several fast food restaurants and a couple of gas stations. On the south side, there's undeveloped land with a gas station and a couple of auto parts stores. In general, State Route 85 Pima Street is either 1 or 2 lanes in each direction with a median for turning movements. In the westbound direction, the 2 lanes transitions into 1 lane as well as with a right turn only lane on the western end. So I'd like to talk about the study findings. For a little bit of background, State Route 85 Pima Street is a very unique road. It is practically State Route 85. It is operated and maintained by the Arizona Department of Transportation. It is also the primary road to the town of Gila Bend, and it acts as a truck route for the movement of goods through the southwest portion of the state. So why did we do this study? Well, State Route 85 Pima Street connects Interstate 8, State Route 85, and Maricopa Road to the east. And because it connects all these routes, the majority of the traffic is simply passing through. It does experience an influx of traffic during holiday weekends as well as the winter months, and this magnifies the issues that are currently being experienced today. In addition, the posted speed limits on Interstate 8 and State Route 85 are 75 and 65 miles per hour. That speed limit drops to 35 miles per hour within the town limits. This makes it extremely difficult for those who are on the north side of the roadway and who would like to make a left turn in order to head east. In addition, there's a future planned development on the north side of the roadway, and this will only exacerbate the problems even further. So the purpose of the study was to improve the operations and the safety of this roadway, as well as to recommend near-term and full build-out improvements. The study started last year in January, and by the spring, the collection of the data had been completed, developed by the early summer. And then in the late summer, in September, all the alternatives were taken to a public open house held in Gila Bend. This gave the public an opportunity to ask questions as well as to provide comments. And with the feedback that we received, the alternatives were then finalized. And so I'd like to present those recommendations. First, though, I want to talk about two concepts that are included in both of the recommendations. The first is a left in, left out concept, which has a channelized island in the median with specific openings for left turn movements. As you can see here on the example, the yellow vehicle is making a left turn into the side street, and it has a deceleration lane in order to safely slow down before making that turn. The red vehicle is making a left turn out of the side street, and it has an acceleration lane in order to safely get up to speed before having to merge into oncoming traffic. The second concept is a right in, right out. Many of you may be more familiar with this concept. In this configuration, no left turn movement is accommodated in any direction. Vehicles can only make a right turn into a driveway and make a right turn out onto the roadway. So the recommended near-term improvement implements the left in, left out and right in, right out concepts by using the existing roadway and adding restriping and installing raised medians. This is a relatively low cost improvement that could be implemented quickly. The recommended full build out is the signalized alternative. This builds upon the near-term improvement by adding two signalized intersections, one at Gila Boulevard and the other at State Route 85. This alternative will also require some roadway widening as well as constructing a new bridge and potentially needing to acquire new right-of-way. So with that, the reports have been finalized, and now this leads me to the action being requested here today, which is to recommend acceptance of the State Route 85 Pima Street study. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Velvet. Do we have questions or comments? Jay?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Just a couple of questions. I was going through the presentation that was online, and I noticed that it had to one of the recommendations in the short term was moving some speed limit signs and putting in a speed feedback sign. I just had a quick comment on that, which is I think we all recognize anytime speed limits come up and speed limit signs come up is that, simply a speed limit sign is not going to make a difference in terms, for the most part, on the speeds that people are traveling. So you need to do something about the roadway. The speed feedback signs are great. I did notice that the speed feedback sign, at least, and I forget which direction it is, but where it was placed was pretty far down the road a little bit from where the speed limit changed. You might want to consider, if you're going to do that, do two. So one right where the speed limit changes, and then one a little bit down to remind people that it's still that speed. The second question that I had for you was, you talked about, it was in the study, and I think it's not part of the recommendation, but there were some roundabouts and some things like that. And those are pretty expensive, and you need a lot of land for those. But did you guys take a look at, it goes by a whole bunch of different names, J-turned or reduced conflict intersection, where you're turning right, and then you go over into the median. There's a lane, your median, and you may kind of make a U-turn and you come back in the other direction. So you don't have to turn left, but you kind of go right and then make you need enough right of way to do that. But I was just wondering if that was even a consideration, or whether you guys looked at that as an option, because those often work pretty well sometimes. So,
Vice Chair Gallego and members of the Transportation Policy Committee and Mr. Beaver, that was not specifically an alternative that was evaluated. As you mentioned, that kind of configuration does take a rather large chunk of right of way. There were several alternatives looked at in terms of the full build out, just to get kind of a concept as well as a general cost estimate. Those, as we get to that point of potentially finding funding for a full build out alternative, again, the alternatives will be vetted through a little further. So nothing's set in stone just quite yet until we can identify some future funds to move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could staff update us on written comments and requests to speak?
Madam Vice Chair, there have been no written comments received for this item.
Thank you. Is there a motion to recommend acceptance of the State Route 85 Pima Street study?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Mayor Orsborn and a second from Mayor Wheatley. Those participating in the meeting online, leave your cameras on. Can I have a voice vote for those in the room and those online? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Please leave your camera on. Staff, do we need a roll call?
Councilmember Haney, how do you vote?
I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Vice Chair, the motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for the great presentation. Number 8 is potential expansion for the wrong way driver detection system. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Kirsten Houston, our principal engineer.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and members of the TPC committee. I'm Kirsten Houston. You said my name perfect, so thank you. Freeway engineer here at MAG, and I'm here to present on the potential expansion of the wrong way driver detection system. I will mention that Susan Anderson is here from ADOT. She's with the Systems Technology Group. So I'm going to talk to you about ADOT's wrong way vehicle detection program, the regional coverage of that wrong way detection, the gaps in the coverage, and the opportunities for expansion. Sorry. Okay, so just to remind you, recap, ADOT came to us in the April committee cycle this past spring. They talked to you all about their pilot project, their first wrong way vehicle, and the incursion data they're currently collecting. Red and gray shading there where the detection zones are. So this vehicle is going to travel onto the roadway. It enters the exit ramp, becoming a wrong way driver. And what happens is the thermal sensors detect this vehicle and they trigger the wrong way sign to light up. Nine times out of 10, this vehicle will self-correct and not become a wrong way driver. It will exit the freeway. If it does become a wrong way driver, the red light at the ramps are triggered, deterring vehicles from entering the main line. And in addition, the DMS sign activates and does an alert message telling drivers that there's a wrong way driver. So that's how the system works. ADOT also talked to us about their software that they have. It's a custom built decision support software. And this is where real-time video kind of displays back to the traffic operations center with real live footage. And the dispatcher can activate the dynamic message signs, the red light ramp meters, and then DPS if needed. ADOT also talked to us about the incursion data they're collecting. So this map here shows where those incursions are occurring. Keep in mind, this is incomplete data because we don't have detection everywhere. So there's areas that may have had incidents that we just don't know about. So through the pilot and through other installations, ADOT's determined the optimal placement of the components of the wrong way system. The first area that we want to install the system is on interchanges at the exit ramps. And the second is on the main line. So this is where components are placed on the dynamics message sign structure. So this is a drawing of your typical interchange, and this is where components are placed. You would need 2 thermal sensors, a video camera, 2 LED wrong way signs, and then you've got your conduit poles software installation. And that's estimated to cost about $500,000. At a mainline location, you need the components are placed on the dynamic message sign. So you need 2 thermal sensors, the conduit software, and the installation itself, estimated to be $150,000 per mainline location. So we've gathered the costs. We wanted to find out what has ADOT installed since the pilot. So they got all that information to us where components are installed now. So the first placement, of course, is that pilot project. Since then, they have installed throughout various freeways throughout the region. So the green there shows where at least there's some partial detection. Keep in mind, these are not full installations. There are areas that it's just the partial, either mainline or interchange. So in the next 20 years, through Prop 4079, we're going to, with every freeway project that is in the program, we will account for wrong way detection. So we either add it where it's missing, upgrade it if needed, so on and so forth. So we know what we have. We know what we're going to have in the next 20 years. What are we missing? We're calling those, what are the gaps in the system? So the blue shows where we won't have detection on the main line. The orange shows where we won't have detection on the interchanges, and the blue and the orange show where there won't be detection in either location. So we tabulated those segments on the freeways, and we determined how many interchanges are missing and how many mainline locations are missing with the total cost. We worked with ADOT to determine the priorities. So these are listed in order of what ADOT considers a priority, which is based on incursion incidents and other safety challenges. So how can we fund these gaps? This last fall, we looked into projects that we could add the wrong way detection to, one of which is the I-10 widening. I think that came up a couple times today from the 85 to Citrus. We plan to add the components to that project. And now, early 2026 is where we're here. With your interest, we plan to present a funding proposal for the rest of the segments. And then, of course, we're always looking for other funding opportunities like discretionary grants and so forth. And then I want to point you to the RSTIP, Regional Strategic Transportation Infrastructure Investment Plan. This is the regional programs. There is an item for ITS with a funding amount of about $30 million per year. Some of this is meant for the freeways, and the wrong way detection would be an ITS item. So there is this pot of funding available. And so taking you back to the map, we are seeking Transportation Policy Committee guidance on funding the rest of these gaps. And that concludes this presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions? Councilmember Hettig.
That's fine. Thank you. One of the questions that I had is I know that there's a revamp of the 303 at Grand as well as a revamp of the 303 at I-17 because they're both failed intersections. One of those that you showed up there was that there's nothing on the 303. So when those are revamped, will these be added and what will the cost be?
Councilmember Hettig and Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, yes, those would be included.
And the cost?
Well, I can get back to you on that because I'm not sure how many locations there are. So 500,000 per interchange. You said 2 interchanges?
Well, I don't know what you're going to revamp. When you revamp the 303 at I-17, there's more than maybe 1 interchange. I don't know how many you're going to put in, and the same thing goes at where Grand is. You're redoing both of them.
Yes.
So what would the cost be on adding that into that? Because at the current time you showed no cost for either one because they don't have anything on there at all.
Madam Vice Chair, Ms. Hettig, just to jump in on that. So how the system has normally been deployed in the past. So if we have an identified funded project, whether it be at 303 I-17 or improvements at 303-60, generally speaking, when we come up with a cost estimate and the funding that we have programmed in the FLCP, there is funding to implement the wrong way driver. So what Kirsten had shown is those areas where we don't have funding set aside, we haven't implemented. I can follow up with you on the specifics for those 2 projects, but we have accounted for basically where we're touching in the future. If there's a project going in, we have accounted for the wrong way driver detection system.
Thank you.
Mayor Wheatley?
Yes. A couple questions for you. So on the intersections where it's not a wrong way driver gets on that intersection, but there is one a few intersections later on, will the second camera pick it up, or does it have to be identified from the first camera? Does that make sense?
Thank you, Mayor Wheatley, Vice Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. Susan Anderson, do you want to help me?
So essentially my question is, if they get on at a different intersection, will the technology still pick it up later?
Got it.
Yeah.
Yes, as the system is, wherever there's a camera, what it can see, it will definitely pick it up. Unfortunately, we would not know where that vehicle entered the system.
Mhm.
And that's the purpose for having those cameras at the interchanges.
Mhm.
So the more that we can get coverage of that, we'll know more specifically where vehicles are actually entering the freeway network. If they end up a few miles down the road, the camera that's on the DMS would pick it up at that location.
Would pick it up and be able to
Yes.
illuminate the sign with the detection.
At the main lines, there's no sign actually associated with it. Those would only be at the interchanges.
Oh, just at the intersections. Interchanges. Okay. All right.
Yes. Hope
I
that answered
appreciate
your question.
I appreciate that. And then as far as the funding, was there grant funding included in that 30 million annually? And what type of grants would we see?
We would look for discretionary grants. We don't have any yet. So the funding, that $30 million in the RSTIP is just allocated through the regional program.
Madam Vice Chair, Mayor Wheatley, too, just to add on a little bit to that. So we've accounted for the wrong way driver expansion in all of the 479 projects, the 30 million per year that Kirsten had mentioned. So that is money that hasn't yet been allocated, if you will. As part of plan development, we knew that we would need to expand ITS for various infrastructure components. Portion of that is on the freeway for things just like this. So really the direction we're looking for from TPC of this, if we feel like this is worthwhile as something to pursue, we'll put together a funding scenario and we'll bring it back forward to you. I think our staff's assessment is that certainly expansion of the wrong way driver system could be a very meaningful opportunity to pursue federal discretionary funds as well. And so if we receive that that direction, certainly we would be able to program and provide some certainty that we would be moving forward with the expansion, but we would also look for opportunities to bring additional funding in. And then the second point I just want to make and emphasize something that Susan had mentioned, really one of the key components to potential expansion is it's going to give us a much richer set of data. And so as we get more data, as we understand why it's occurring, is there something wrong with the intersection design, we can account for that in the future. And so I just want to underscore with an expanded system, we get the additional data and we can be more forward looking in our approaches as well.
Okay. Thank you. Jay.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Just it says feedback on there, so so some feedback and some questions. Have you found that you're going to get more data as this rolls out? But have you found certain types of roadways that this is more of a problem at, or is it sort of more just sort of general? Because in our experience, I've seen a lot of presentations on this particular subject at TRB and a whole bunch of other places. And it seems like the more the bigger, the wider, and the more sparsely traveled the roadway is, the more likely that this happens and it becomes some sort of catastrophic thing where somebody's driving down a road late at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, they're probably impaired or something like that. And then somebody's coming in the opposite direction and, you know, you have a catastrophe. Whereas the roadways, which are where there's more people on it, it becomes more obvious right away that you're going the wrong way before you can get up to a major speed. So, and that brings me to my sort of feedback, which is I saw that, you know, the 51 is sort of not in that whole thing. It's this roadway I take a lot to get downtown or to the airport or whatever. And there are sections of that are sort of in that category of really wide sections of the roadway and other sections that are not. But it just always seems to me that that would be a place that's really ripe for a wrong way driver. Also 17 going north from Carefree Highway, which again near my near my home. So that's just sort of my general comment. Oh, sorry, one more thing. As we're building out these new projects, is there physical ways of designing these interchanges that makes it less likely that this even becomes a problem from a physical standpoint, as opposed to just the detection and then hoping that something happens with regards to that?
Thank you, Mr. Bieber, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. Which question do you want me to answer first?
Whatever you want. Yeah, up to you.
Well, okay, so the 51 is ADOT's top priority to install this detection. There is no funding for it yet, so that's where we're looking to you all for a recommendation. Susan, I don't know if you want to chime in on the design stuff.
Yes, I appreciate your comment on all of the design. That is definitely something ADOT continues to look at as our different designs for the different types of interchanges we have. Definitely having improved, lighting, making sure that our signage and striping is very clear on the roadway. That is something we're trying to maintain at all times. So that definitely helps with getting people's attention and making sure they know exactly where they need to be going. Our data right now does not show that any particular intersection interchange design is better than another one. So it just comes down to really driver behavior and making sure that they know where they need to be going. That is also true between urban and the rural locations as well. Our challenge in the rural areas is oftentimes there's nowhere else for them to turn around. So if they end up out on a roadway and they're heading and they really don't have anywhere else to get off the roadway or realize that they're going in the wrong direction. So we just continue to look at the design elements and we're always open to ideas. So thank you.
Mr. Camps.
So the pilot project you did on 117, I'm just curious, like, what did it perform? Were drivers stopped? What was the number of driver stops? What kind of data can you share with us related to the success of the pilot?
So Mr. Camps, thank you for the question. Vice Madam Chair, members of the committee. That's where that 9 out of 10 corrections came from. That actually is directly from that study, from that pilot.
Thanks. And then
do you have anything else to share? Okay.
And then I just want to make sure I understood it. Is the total budget to fund, excluding the improvements that would be funded through the 479 program, the total budget for expansion of this program is that 30 million? Did I understand that correctly? Or
That's just a part, that's the funding that we could potentially use annually
Okay.
to fund the gaps. I can go back to the table if you want to see that.
Madam Chair, Mr. Camps too. We have up to 30 million available for ITS expansion throughout the region. A portion of that is in the freeway. So again, based on the direction provided here, we would put together a funding scenario. We obviously wouldn't put it all in 1 year, but we could use a portion of that funding towards expansion of the wrong way detection system, and we would bring that forward in a subsequent meeting.
Okay. But the total budget to expand this program valley-wide would be?
Currently, there is no budget for this program specifically, but there is dedicated funding set aside for ITS,
right?
Technology, and open question about how much we allocate towards this.
Yeah, no, I'll get to the portion of the IT. I had a couple questions on it. I'm just trying to fully understand the cost of implementing this program valley-wide. That's the only answer or question I have right now.
We can follow up with how much of the expansion is already identified as part of the programs. The remaining gaps would be this total here.
Okay, so, all right. So I'm trying to do quick math. That's about 30 million.
Yeah.
Okay. So 30 million covers the whole program.
Just the gaps.
Just the gaps. You're correct. The unfunded portions. Okay.
Yep.
And then to the IT, that's the line item I saw that you've been talking about. So what portion of that 30 million can be used for this program?
Madam Chair, Mr. Camps, we could conceivably, if we wanted to do all 30 million, we could allocate it all towards this program to get it done as quickly as possible. That being said, we'd have to work with ADOT to figure out feasibility and material availability and things of that sort. But we would certainly, given the importance of this program and this item, we would certainly look to do that sooner than later. You'll hear a presentation in subsequent months from David Lucas, our ITS manager, about what those other ITS items that we're weighing would be. But from a staff perspective, we feel comfortable we could accommodate this within the overall ITS budget.
Okay, thank. If the answer is you'll come back to us at a later time and provide us information. But my only last question is, what is currently funded out of that IT bucket?
We have not allocated any of it.
Let me just say, I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around it. What did it used to fund, if anything?
Sure. Madam Chair, members of the TBC, it funded components like the wrong way driver, fiber optic expansion along the freeway system, fiber optic expansion along the arterial system, some of the traffic signal technologies, adaptive signals, so on and so forth.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Thank you. When we last heard an update on this technology, Jen Daniels had asked about the ability to do broader hazard detection because we know there can be other challenges on their freeways. My recollection was that the technology was not there yet to do broader hazardous detection.
Thank you, Vice Chair, for the question. I think that's an ADOT response.
Yes, Madam Chair. We are actually looking at a variety of different technologies that are out there. There's a number of different camera technologies that can pick up different type of incidents if there's debris on the road or a stalled vehicle. We are right in the phase of kind of researching what's available, but every day new technology is coming out. So we're continuing to look into that option.
Perfect. Wrong way drivers is probably the top hazard, but if we can solve our multiple problems for our residents, then
that is quite true. Yes, that technology is coming. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I guess for me, before we decided how much we wanted to allocate here, it might be better to have a overall discussion about what's possible and also understand in terms of very serious accidents and fatalities, sort of what % of them are on the freeways versus other areas where we might want to allocate funds. Fabulous. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for the great presentation on such an important topic. We were next scheduled to have an update on the Diamond Grind pilot program, but we are approaching 1 o'clock and staff has shared with me this could be postponed to another meeting. Are folks comfortable with that? Okay. Then we will go to our legislative update and welcome back Samantha.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, members of Transportation Policy Committee. Last week kicked off the 57th second regular session at the legislature. Governor Hobbs gave her State of the State, where she addressed issues such as affordable housing, increasing costs, border security, education, and water. The governor's executive budget was released on Friday, which proposed $18.6 billion in total expenditures for fiscal year 27 and would maintain a projected structural balance of $37.6 million. The Joint Legislative Budget Committee baseline report was also released last Friday that shows the general fund balance of $577 million. As of this morning, 1,276 bills have been dropped, and we are tracking those that are related to the work that we do here at MAG, including environmental planning, housing and homelessness, and of course, transportation. I would like to provide a brief update on what we are tracking so far. House Bill 2106, Transportation Tax Deposit County Board, introduced by Representative Martinez, is a repeat bill from last year that we did track as well, and is addressing Pinal County's collected revenues of the now struck down RTA tax. This will not have an impact on Prop 479 funding. Senate Bill 1222, Light Rail Public Monies Prohibition, was introduced by Senator Mesnard. This expands the prohibition on using public monies to extend light rail service in Phoenix by broadening the described boundary area and barring extensions to any area or property within 50 linear yards of that area. We are also tracking several bills related to declining HERF revenues and potential impacts to those bills related to HERF funding, including House Bill 2400, Motor Fuel Tax Holiday, introduced by Representative Willoughby. This suspends the motor fuel tax from May 1st through September 30th of each year for fuel purchased, sold, possessed, used, or consumed in Area A or Area C, which would be Maricopa County and Pinal County. and prohibits vendors from collecting or recovering the tax during that period. The bill also requires the Arizona Department of Transportation to annually allocate and transfer $72.6 million from the Highway User Revenue Fund to counties and municipalities. With that, that completes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. All right, we appreciate the update. Item 11 is request for future agenda items. Ms. Spencer.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily an agenda item, but you know, the Gila Bend study just kind of highlighted to me, like, and I'm new here, so maybe you members may know this process, but like, how do we go about our study process? And I'm just like, what's in the pipeline? The studies are great, and I think they're well done, but like, I would just like a better understanding of what MAG is currently studying as it comes through the pipeline. So, you know, we just can have greater focus on what's going on out there. And so if there's a process, I think it'd be great to just hear what that process is, about how those studies are determined and decided upon. But more importantly, from my perspective, I just love to know what you're working on, so I have a better understanding of the kind of the concerns out there.
Madam Vice Chair, Mr. Camps, we'd be happy to give a presentation on current and upcoming MAG studies, certainly.
And maybe an email just would be nice because there are a lot. All right. Any comments or announcements from the membership? Good luck to any mayors doing State of the Cities coming up. And with that, we are adjourned. The next meeting will be on Wednesday, February 18th at 11:30 a.m. with no further business. We are adjourned.